Today, we're breaking down the 30 biggest and most anticipated Switch 2 games of 2026 and 2027. I decided to build this massive top list out of my previous videos, so consider this the ultimate mega compilation of the absolute best and most epic titles we've been talking about. Get comfortable, because this is going to be a wild ride. Life is Strange. Reunion is an upcoming story-driven adventure game developed by Deck 9 Games and published by Square Enix. And for fans of this series, it carries a lot of emotional weight. It is a direct sequel to Life is Strange. Double exposure from 2024, but more than that, it is being positioned as the full-length continuation and emotional finale to the Max Caulfield and Chloe Price storyline that originally started back in 2015 with the very first game. That is a decade of history leading into this one. What makes Reunion feel genuinely special is something the series has never done before. Both Max and Chloe are playable characters for the first time ever. Max returns with her classic time-manipulating rewind power, while Chloe brings a unique ability called Backtalk, which she uses to navigate conversations and push through obstacles in her own way.
Maybe this time is different?
Right when everything is falling into... I could do.
You bought us time. Time that we'll make the most of.
Lots to discuss. Right now, I think we should run.
Pokemon Pokopia is one of those announcements that genuinely caught people off guard, and honestly, in the best way possible. This is an official Pokemon title coming to Nintendo Switch 2 on March 5th, 2026, and it is unlike anything the franchise has done before. Instead of stepping into the role of a trainer hunting Pokemon down in battle, you actually play as a Ditto who has taken on a human form, and your entire purpose is to shape a sprawling, raw landscape into a thriving Pokemon haven. The focus here is life simulation all the way, gathering materials, crafting tools, farming, building homes, and slowly drawing Pokemon into the world you are creating. You can even use the abilities of different Pokemon to reshape the environment and attract new creatures, which is a genuinely clever touch.
Collect rocks and wood to build with. No need to rush, though.
If you grew up with the weird, wonderful chaos of the Toxic Crusaders cartoon in the early 90s, which was itself spun off from the Toxic Avenger films, then RetroWare's new beat-em-up revival is going to hit you somewhere deep and nostalgic. The game brings back the full iconic lineup: Toxie, No Zone, Junkyard, Major Disaster, Headbanger, Yvonne, and Mrs. Junko, all fighting their way through colorful pixel art levels packed with pollution and mutants. Combat is classic side-scrolling brawler style. Each character has their own unique moveset, and you can bring in up to 4 players for local co-op, which is exactly how a game like this should be played. Capcom is doing right by a series that absolutely deserves the spotlight again. The Mega Man Star Force Legacy Collection is a full compilation of all 7 games from the Star Force line, hitting Nintendo Switch on March 27, 2026. For those unfamiliar, these were originally Nintendo DS titles, built around space-themed action, RPG gameplay. Think real-time combat, transformation mechanics, and a style of storytelling that set them apart from the classic Mega Man formula. Super Mario Bros. Wonder originally launched back in October 2023 on the Nintendo Switch, and it was a fantastic return to 2D Mario, wild power-ups, unpredictable level gimmicks, the whole package. But Nintendo is coming back to it in a big way. On March 26, 2026, they are releasing an expanded Nintendo Switch 2 edition that brings some genuinely exciting additions to the table. The visuals and performance have been tuned specifically for Switch 2 hardware, with 4K support and smoother frame rates making the game feel noticeably fresher. Beyond the technical side, there are new playable characters joining the roster, Rosalina and co-star Luma, along with brand new boss encounters to tackle. Perhaps the most interesting new addition is the Bellabelle Park multiplayer hub, a social space built around cooperative and competitive activities that gives the experience a whole new social dimension. It is the kind of expanded edition that makes revisiting a game you already love feel genuinely worthwhile.
Let's go over some of the things you can do. Plus, there are so many other attractions to enjoy. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. Plus
Nevergrave. The Witch and the Curse is one of those games where the core concept alone is enough to make you want to know more. Developed by Frontside 180 and published by Pocket Pair, this is a 2D roguelike Metroidvania action game releasing on Nintendo Switch and other platforms on March 5th, 2026. The twist that makes it stand out is your main companion, a cursed magical hat that can possess defeated enemies and borrow their abilities on the fly. That mechanic feeds directly into how you approach combat, solve puzzles, and adapt your entire playstyle from run to run, which gives the gameplay a constantly shifting energy that suits the roguelike format perfectly. On top of the dungeon exploration and combat magic, you are also collecting loot to rebuild a devastated village, crafting new facilities and strengthening your arsenal between runs, so there is always something meaningful to work toward. Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP is the remastered return of the gloriously unhinged cult classic that Suda51 and James Gunn cooked up together, and the Nintendo Switch 2 version has its own particular story worth telling. The remaster already made its way to multiple platforms, including the original Nintendo Switch, but the Switch 2 launch has been deliberately delayed. Not because something went wrong, but because the team wants to release the digital and physical editions at exactly the same time, rather than staggering them. And honestly, the wait comes with a pretty compelling reason to hold on, because the Switch 2 version is getting an exclusive gun shooting mode. This is a rail shooter style experience that unlocks after you finish the main game, putting Juliet up against waves of enemies armed with a special chainsaw blaster, which sounds completely in character for this franchise. OPUS Prism Peak now has a locked-in release date, and it is coming to both Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 on March 26, 2026. The game sits firmly in narrative-driven adventure territory built around atmospheric world-building and a strong emotional core. As you play, you move through mysterious environments where the story does not just get handed to you. It is woven into the environmental puzzles and the character interactions you encounter along the way. It is the kind of game where exploration and storytelling feel like the same thing rather than two separate layers, and that blend of expressive storytelling with genuine adventure exploration gives it a mood that feels very much its own.
Our hearts. Hey. Hey, kiddo. When you make it back.
Fatal Frame 2. Crimson Butterfly is one of the most genuinely unsettling games ever made, and it is coming back as a full remake on Nintendo Switch 2 on March 12, 2026. The original released in 2003 and earned its reputation the hard way, and this version is not a simple remaster. It is being rebuilt from the ground up with updated visuals, redesigned systems, and modern controls that make the experience feel current without losing what made it so haunting in the first place. At its heart, the camera obscura mechanic remains exactly what it always was. A ghost-capturing camera that is your only real weapon as you navigate a cursed, abandoned village filled with hostile spirits.
Do you think this is... Stay back. Run away. What happened?
Ritual will begin soon.
Mouse P Eye for Hire might be the most visually distinctive game on this entire list. You play as Jack Pepper, a private investigator mouse dropped into a world that looks and feels like it was ripped straight out of early 20th century animation. We are talking rubber hose aesthetics, the kind of old-school cartoon energy that immediately calls to mind something like Steamboat Willie. But underneath that charming visual style lives a fast-paced first-person shooter built around noir and slapstick influences in equal measure, which is a combination that sounds wild on paper and somehow seems to work beautifully in practice. The game is confirmed for multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch 2, where it arrives on March 19th, 2026, and it is already shaping up to be one of the more memorable style-forward games of the year.
Yeah, I jinxed it, didn't I?
With me, exterminate. No entry is through the gate.
Not that again.
Disney Dreamlight Valley first arrived on Nintendo Switch and other platforms back in December 2023, but on March 25th, 2026, it is getting a proper native Nintendo Switch 2 edition built specifically for the new hardware. This enhanced version brings improved performance and graphical updates tailored to what the Switch 2 can actually do, so the experience feels meaningfully upgraded rather than just ported over. The game itself is a cozy life simulation adventure where you build and customize your own valley, restore the lost memories of Disney and Pixar characters, gather resources, cook, craft, and explore biomes inspired by beloved franchises across the Disney universe. It is the kind of game you can sink hours into without ever feeling rushed.
With your help, this is a place where you can find yourself at home. This is a place where you'll have is a dream come true.
If you followed the Monster Hunter universe for as long as I have, you already know that the Stories series carved out its own special place by flipping the whole premise on its head. Instead of hunting these massive creatures, you bond with them, raise them, and fight side by side. And with Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection, it genuinely feels like Capcom is pushing that idea to its most ambitious level yet. The story unfolds in a world shaken by mysterious events that threaten both humans and monsters alike, with a legendary phenomenon at its center, the birth of twin Rathalos, creatures that symbolize both hope and chaos. As a rider, you travel across vast regions, explore vibrant ecosystems, hatch and raise powerful monsties, and build deep connections with them as they grow stronger by your side. The game keeps the classic turn-based RPG combat system the series built its reputation on, but everything looks more cinematic and dynamic this time around, with battles that feel more strategic and visually impressive than ever before.
I'll see you soon, Father.
Save the world. And it's my duty to pick up the torch and see it.
Okay, let's shift gears completely, because Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is basically Sega's full-throttle answer to the kart racing genre, and this game does not just borrow the formula, it goes completely wild with it. On the surface, it looks like a colorful arcade racer with Sonic and friends tearing through familiar tracks, but the real magic kicks in with the cross-world mechanic. Mid-race, a portal can open right in front of you and suddenly transport everyone into a completely different world, with a new track layout, fresh hazards, and new shortcuts to discover. It turns every single race into something unpredictable and chaotic in the best possible way. The roster is packed with familiar Sonic characters, each bringing their own vehicle and unique stats to the table. But where things really get interesting is the customization. You can modify your ride with dozens of parts, gadgets, and visual upgrades, building something that perfectly matches your playstyle, whether that's raw speed, tight handling, or aggressive boosting abilities.
None will stand in my way.
If you've been around gaming long enough, the name Legacy of Kain probably already does something to you. This series built its entire reputation on dark storytelling, unforgettable characters, and one of the most fascinating vampire universes ever crafted in gaming history. And now, Legacy of Kain Defiance Remastered brings that legendary chapter back with a modern upgrade, giving both longtime fans and newcomers a chance to dive once again into the twisted world of Nosgoth. The story centers on the epic conflict between two iconic characters, Kain and Raziel, whose destinies are bound together in a tragic battle shaped by betrayal, prophecy, and the mysterious Wheel of Fate. What always made Defiance so special was that you could control both of them throughout the story. Kain is powerful and brutal, wielding devastating vampire abilities and the legendary Soul Reaver blade, while Raziel moves through both the material and spectral realms, solving puzzles and uncovering hidden paths that exist between dimensions.
The coin is still turning, Raziel. Now.
Created you, and to this function, you will.
This next one genuinely caught me off guard, and honestly, that's exactly the reason it earned a spot here. Dosa Divas. One Last Meal is one of those quirky indie RPGs that looks colorful and charming at first glance, but once you dig a little deeper, there's a surprisingly emotional story hiding underneath all that flavor. You follow two sisters, Samara and Amani, who reunite after years apart and set off on a strange and heartfelt journey across a vibrant world. Their mission goes well beyond adventure. It's about reconnecting with old friends, confronting a shared past, and fighting back against a dystopian fast food empire that has taken over society and replaced real cooking with corporate food systems. Yes, that is actually the premise, and it works. Combat plays out in turn-based RPG battles where food is both your weapon and your strategy, with different dishes triggering unique effects, exploiting enemy weaknesses, and creating wild status conditions mid-fight. Along the way, you explore colorful villages, meet eccentric characters, gather ingredients, and cook meals that help rebuild communities.
Cleaner meals. Packs a punch.
Underpar Golf Architect is one of those games where the moment someone explains the actual concept to you, your whole attitude toward it changes completely. Because this isn't just a sports game, you're not the one swinging the club here. You're the mastermind building the entire golf resort from the ground up. It starts with a piece of raw land, and from there you shape terrain, create fairways and greens, place lakes and rivers, and design holes that challenge even the most demanding players. Every hole has to feel fair, balanced, and genuinely interesting, which means you're constantly testing your own courses and refining them until they play exactly right. But designing the course is only half of it. You also run the entire club, constructing facilities like restaurants, pools, bars, and training centers to keep members happy, hiring staff, managing budgets, attracting wealthy VIP golfers, and organizing tournaments that bring real prestige to your resort. The deeper you go, the more it starts to feel like a full tycoon-style simulation, where every decision you make ripples outward and shapes the success or failure of everything you've built. This one is genuinely unlike anything else I've come across in a long time, and the premise alone is enough to stop you in your tracks. Glaciered takes place an almost incomprehensible 65 million years into the future, in an era where Earth has been consumed by a permanent ice age known as the Everwinter. The world above the oceans is completely frozen and lifeless, but deep beneath the surface, life has evolved in ways you would never expect. Birds, over millions of years, have transformed into a new intelligent underwater species called the Tuai. Strange creatures that combine traits of ancient dinosaurs and aquatic life. You play as one of these evolved beings, exploring a vast frozen ocean ecosystem while protecting your species from enemies that threaten to end the Everwinter and destroy the fragile balance keeping your world alive. Visually, the whole thing looks stunning, with glowing sea life, icy landscapes, and alien underwater ecosystems that feel both beautiful and deeply mysterious.
Full of mysteries that are waiting to be explored and defended.
As you swim through these to fell these foes.
Use experience gained from these battles.
Species descended from dinosaurs, endowed with the abilities needed to protect the ever-winning.
If you're drawn to survival games but want something darker and more punishing than your typical crafting sandbox, Nested Lands is one to watch closely. The game drops you into a bleak medieval world devastated by plague, famine, and violence, where civilization has essentially collapsed, and the survivors who remain are desperately trying to piece together some form of society while danger closes in from every direction. Rather than playing as a lone wanderer, you step into the role of a settlement leader. You begin with almost nothing, a small camp and a handful of survivors. And from there, you gather resources, craft tools, construct buildings, and slowly work to turn that fragile camp into a functioning village. Each survivor you rescue can be assigned a role, whether that's farming, crafting, defending the perimeter, or venturing out into the surrounding lands for supplies. But survival here earns that word. Bandits roam the countryside. Brutal winters can wipe out your food stores overnight, and disease spreads fast if your village lacks proper medicine or sanitation.
Lord is law. Save and rule over the abandoned dark place.
Throws you into the vast wilderness of 13th century Mongolia, where you play as a courier rider making your way across enormous open landscapes on horseback. The concept reminds a lot of players of something like Death Stranding, except instead of futuristic technology and post-apocalyptic infrastructure, everything here revolves around horses, survival, and the brutal beauty of the natural world. Your purpose in this world is to deliver messages and supplies between distant settlements scattered across the Mongolian steppe, and while that might sound deceptively simple, the journey itself is the real game. The world is vast and completely untamed, filled with mountains, deserts, snowy plains, and dangerous wildlife. Before every trip, you need to plan your route carefully, choose the right horse for the terrain ahead, balance your equipment properly on the saddle, and prepare food and tools for both yourself and your mount. I'll be honest, when I first heard the concept behind Ratten Reich, I didn't quite know what to make of it. But that's also exactly why it stuck with me. This is a real-time strategy game set in a strange diesel-punk world where the armies aren't humans at all, but anthropomorphic animals. Rats, mice, cockroaches, and other creatures locked in a brutal global war. Picture the atmosphere of World War I, blend it with steampunk technology and a dark alternate history, and then hand the whole thing over to entire civilizations of animal factions. The gameplay focuses on tactical battlefield control, where positioning, terrain, and unit management are everything. You command squads of soldiers, armored vehicles, and artillery across grim battlefields inspired by early 20th century warfare. And this is not a fast arcade-style strategy game. It rewards careful thinking, punishes poor positioning, and makes resource management genuinely feel like life and death. What really elevates it, though, is the world building.
Let's kick things off with a game that has had me absolutely glued to my screen since the moment Capcom first teased it. Pragmata. If you're anything like me, you've been dying for a fresh, high-budget sci-fi action adventure, and they are finally delivering the goods on the Switch 2. Picture this. You're stranded on a cold, desolate, lunar research station, stepping into the bulky space boots of a rugged spacefarer named Hugh, but you aren't exploring this massive facility alone. You're traveling with an incredibly mysterious and powerful little android girl named Diana. The dynamic between these two is what really sells it for me. It's got those classic gruff protector and gifted child vibes, but thrust into a totally bizarre, futuristic setting where you are battling rogue AI and massive, imposing mechs.
Then let's go, together.
Of controlled violence? Granted.
You gotta be kidding me.
Moving right along, I want to talk about a game that completely stole my heart during the recent partner showcase, and that is Orbitals. If you are constantly hunting for the perfect co-op game to play with your best friend or your partner on the couch, this is the one you need to put on your radar immediately. Orbitals is a Switch 2 exclusive that fully leans into this gorgeous, retro anime aesthetic, and it just pops off the screen in the best way possible. You play as Maki and Omura, two relatively inexperienced but fiercely determined explorers who are desperately trying to save their crumbling space station home from a supernatural, destructive cosmic storm. What I absolutely love about this title is how much it emphasizes genuine teamwork. It's not just two people mindlessly blasting at the same enemies. You genuinely have to use your brains and coordinate with your partner to navigate these uncharted, hazardous zones.
Activate mechanisms and cool down scorching Maki and Omura, two young explorers, must now unexpected solutions to puzzles.
Let's keep the momentum going with a game that has the entire tactical RPG community in a massive theorizing chokehold right now. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. I haven't seen the fan base this divided and hyped since the lead up to Three Houses, and for good reason. Intelligent Systems is throwing us into this wild, Roman-inspired setting centered around the Heroic Games, a high-stakes arena tournament that literally decides the fate of entire kingdoms. We're stepping into the boots of a brand new commander, leading an army of heroes, and the political intrigue already looks off the charts. But here is the crazy part that has me obsessively scrubbing through the trailers, the timeline. Personally, I am leaning towards a far future sequel where the crest weapons have evolved, but the mystery alone is just so good. The Switch 2 hardware upgrade is doing absolute wonders for the visuals here too.
I need the strength to lead my people. Strength enough for a queen!
Hear me now as I declare that the Heroic Games have begun upon the final stage. I shall grant whatever wish you may desire.
If you want to talk about raw, cinematic style, we absolutely have to discuss what IO Interactive is cooking up with 007 First Light. When the developers behind the Hitman franchise announced they were making a James Bond origin story, my jaw hit the floor, and the recent gameplay reveals have completely justified all of my hype. This isn't just a simple reskin of Agent 47. We are actually playing as a 26-year-old, somewhat reckless and inexperienced James Bond who is actively trying to earn his legendary 00 status and his license to kill. It's a completely original narrative, and seeing actor Patrick Gibson step into the role alongside Lenny Kravitz, who is playing this incredibly menacing black market arms dealer named Balma, gives it such a prestige blockbuster movie feel. What I am most excited about is how IO is handling the gameplay loop through their new Spycraft system.
Agents have very short life expectancy.
You're a rare breed, Bond. I should be interested to see what you do next.
Try not to draw attention to yourself.
Alright, switching gears completely, let's talk about a game that is hitting me right in the childhood nostalgia, but with a massive next-gen glow-up LEGO Batman legacy of The Dark Knight. I have been begging for a return to the classic LEGO Batman formula, and Traveler's Tales is finally delivering, but they are going completely all out this time. Built from the ground up on Unreal Engine 5, this is actually the very first LEGO title skipping the original Switch entirely to be a true Switch 2 exclusive, and you can absolutely see why. The open-world Gotham looks breathtakingly dense and atmospheric, blending elements from the gritty Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves movies to create this incredible cinematic vibe that we rarely ever see in LEGO games. What I find super interesting is their new approach to the roster.
You want to get nuts?
Who are you?
Ever since CD Projekt Red dropped that jaw-dropping cinematic trailer, the entire RPG community has been in a massive frenzy, and I am right there with you. The fact that we are officially stepping into the boots of Ciri as the main playable protagonist is just a brilliant, refreshing move. I loved playing as Geralt, and don't worry, the legendary Doug Cockle is confirmed to be returning to voice him in some capacity. But Ciri's journey has so much untapped potential, especially as we dive into the lore of this mysterious new school of the Lynx. Have you guys seen the recent Unreal Engine 5 tech demo showing off the snowy northern kingdom of Kavir? My jaw literally hit the floor. The density of the forests, the sheer scale of the environment, and the incredible lighting system just scream true next-gen fantasy.
I shall. Her of salvation.
Alright, Vault Hunters, we need to have a serious talk about Borderlands 4, because this is the one that has had me on an absolute emotional roller coaster lately. We already know the classic looter-shooter mayhem is taking us to the brand new, totally chaotic world of Kairos with 4 fresh Vault Hunters, and the gameplay they've shown is completely off the walls. They've added some insane new traversal mechanics like double jumping, gliding, and fixed-point grappling that are going to make combat feel so much more vertical and dynamic. I can already picture myself frantically grappling out of danger while blasting a mechanical monstrosity with some ridiculous, acid-spewing shotgun. Now here is the spicy part regarding the Switch 2 gearbox originally promised us a release alongside the other platforms, and we even saw it running on the hybrid hardware during a few events last year. But recently, word broke that development on the Switch 2 port has been officially paused, while the publisher focuses on optimizing the game for existing hardware. Next up is a title that is quite literally breaking the internet right now because it officially launches on other platforms tomorrow, but we absolutely need to talk about what this means for us. Pearl Abyss has crafted a monstrous, breathtakingly gorgeous open-world action RPG set in the war-torn continent of Pywell, and the sheer scale of the map reportedly makes some of our favorite massive RPGs look small in comparison. The combat is so intensely brutal and cinematic, blending heavy swordplay with wrestling-style grapples and some jaw-dropping magical abilities. But here is exactly why the Switch 2 community is buzzing. While the developer hasn't officially announced a Nintendo release just yet, the writing is completely on the wall. We've recently seen leaked GameStop retail listings specifically for a Switch 2 version, and highly credible industry insiders have been shouting from the rooftops that a port is actively in the works behind the scenes. I know what you might be thinking right now. The developers at Bulkhead and Team 17 have officially announced this massive 100-player tactical FPS for PC Early Access later this year. We need to talk about why this is the exact type of massive, ambitious game we are absolutely desperate to see ported to the Switch 2, and why I'm keeping it on my radar. War Dogs isn't your typical run-of-the-mill battle royale or extraction shooter. It's a completely wild, massive-scale warfare experience, where 3 teams fight for control across a staggering 256 square kilometer map. You start a match with 10 grand, and every single thing you do, from reviving a squad mate to ferrying troops into a hot zone using a helicopter, earns you cash to buy better gear, vehicles, and even build custom forward operating bases. The sheer level of environmental destruction and sandbox freedom they are promising is totally mind-blowing. Finally, we absolutely cannot wrap up a Nintendo Switch 2 list without talking about the absolute crown jewel that was just revealed during the franchise's 30th anniversary, Pokémon Wins. Paired alongside its sister title, Pokémon Waves, this is officially our grand introduction to Generation 10. And it is a complete, built-from-the-ground-up exclusive for the Switch 2. Game Freak is taking us to a breathtaking tropical archipelago region that is heavily inspired by Southeast Asia, and from the teaser trailer alone, the leap in visual fidelity is completely staggering. The ocean graphics, the lush mangrove forests, and the sprawling island environments look so incredibly vibrant and alive. But what really has me hyped beyond belief is the heavy emphasis on underwater exploration. The footage showed sweeping shots beneath the waves, suggesting we are finally getting a deep, expansive, aquatic ecosystem to dive into and explore. And of course, we have to talk about the new starters.